Hi everyone, welcome to the final segment in chapter 3. We're going to look at the effect of taxes and subsidies, and we're going to do it in a graphical format just so we get a good understanding for how this works. So let's start with taxes first. Now, in previous semesters, I've noted that this is a little difficult for students to see at first. So just focus on my words and I'll try and touch the most important parts here. And if you have questions, we can go over it in class. But we start out with normal supply and demand. So D1 or D and S. And we see that, let's say there's 5 million cases of product exchanged and the price is $8. So that's the equilibrium, that's our starting point. The second step is, well, how much is the taxes? Well, a $2 tax, basically the producer is going to collect it in this case. So the producer has to charge $2 more no matter what quantity they're selling because they're going to give that tax away. So that essentially shifts the supply curve up or to the left by $2. There's our $2. So everywhere between these two supply curves is a $2 vertical distance. Up here, that's $2. Right here where it shows $2 and certainly down here. So that's our second step. We add that $2 tax. And then the third step is, well, where's the new equilibrium? Because supply curve shifted. Well, we just go to the new equilibrium point. That's where the S plus tax curve is and the old demand curve is because demand didn't change. And we find out quantity changed, but more importantly for us in this case, price equilibrium is now $9. Okay, let's pause for a second. And the old equilibrium price was 8. That's what consumers paid. Let's look at consumers first. They now have to pay $9. That's the equilibrium price. The amount of tax was 2, so they're paying half the tax. They're paying $1 of that $2 tax. They used to pay 8, now they pay 9. Simple conclusion, they're paying $1 of the $2 tax. From the producer's point of view, they now receive $9. That's what they get from the consumers, but remember, they have to pay the $2 tax, that's this distance, to the government. So they collect $9, but they pay $2 to the government, so they're only getting $7 for the product now. They used to get 8, now they get 7, so they're also paying $1 of that $2 tax. So in this case, the tax cost to both producers and consumers is shared equally, $1 each, 50% each. Only in this case, you'll see in later chapters when we change the shape of the curves that consumers might pay more or producers might pay more. But for this example, they each pay exactly the same amount. So let's go over and look at how a subsidy works. A subsidy is the opposite of a tax. It's not a charge, it's something that's given to producers. And it's usually given per unit produced. So I'll walk through this the same sort of stepwise way where we start at initial equilibrium with the first demand curve and the normal supply curve, and the quantity per period produced is 40 million dozen, and the equilibrium price is 2. Now, if the government comes along and says, you know something, this is a good product, or for whatever reason, they want to give the producers of this a benefit, well, it'll benefit consumers and producers. So let's say they want to give a $1 subsidy per unit to the producers. That essentially reduces their cost of production by $1, and that shifts the supply curve to the right. It allows them to increase production because their costs have gone down. So we carefully put in the new supply subsidy curve, and then of course we go to the new equilibrium point. And what we do is we see that quantity equilibrium, quantity produced, quantity bought and sold, is 60 million now, so quite a bit more. And the actual sales price to the consumers is 1.5. It may look like the producers are receiving less money because they're only collecting 1.5 from the consumer now, dollar per dozen, but they've got the big subsidy coming in and they're also getting more production. So in this case, they're both better off. So that ends our explanation here of taxes and subsidies. And that's the last segment in chapter 3. And we'll see you when we get to the next chapter.